Members, 5 minutes. We're going to start in 5 minutes, so please come to the chamber.
The House will come to order. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time of year, we'd like to say thank you to all the House interns and let them know how much we truly appreciate their service and dedication to this session. Y'all have all worked so hard, and we hope you've enjoyed your time with us. We've sure enjoyed having you here. So let's start with Regina Reagan Hughley. Grace Hine. Amaya Agee. Bobby Crawford. And Ethan Ivey. No, there he is. Been hiding. There you are. Again, a big round of applause. What a great job y'all did. Thank y'all.
Let's get a picture. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, come on.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovin, for a timely resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to suspend the rules for an HJR that would create a joint interim study commission on local and county victim notification system through our statewide system.
Joe, you care to explain what that does? Ms. Hall, come on down if you want to. We'll talk about what it does. That'd be great.
Certainly, there's a split in the counties that each county has a system. There's about 30 counties that use one. That time expired, so they're trying to find a solution. And so what this
I'm sorry, could you?
what this commission would do would allow
I
that.
didn't hear you. Could you start over?
Sure, this would establish a joint study commission for a reporting system for victim notification that there's about 30 counties that use one vendor, then there's some subject to ALEA taking up that work. And it's sort of a hodgepodge, if you will, of how that system works. And the sheriffs want to study a system to see what would work best. And
What's
that
the makeup?
victim notification system.
The member makeup of that commission,
There's several
please.
appointments on there that are, she took my copy, 1 second. Most certainly. The commission be one member of the Victims Advocacy Group appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, Speaker of the House.
Would you speak directly into the mic so I can hear you? Thank you.
Sure. Membership of the commission shall consist of a member of the Victims Advocacy Group appointed by Lieutenant Governor, the Speaker of the House or his or her designee, President Pro Tem of the Senate or his or her designee, the Chair of the House representing Ways and Means General Fund or his designee, the Chair of the State Finance and Taxation General Fund Committee or his or her designee, the Minority Leader of the House Representative or his or her designee, the Minority Leader of the Senate or his or her designee, the Finance Director or his or her designee, a member appointed by the Attorney General, a member appointed by the Alabama State Law Enforcement Agency, a member appointed by the District Attorneys Association, a member appointed by the Sheriff's Association, a member appointed by the Association of County Commissions of Alabama. The appointing authorities shall coordinate with their appointments to ensure the commission membership is inclusive and reflects the racial, gender, geographic, urban, and rural economic diversity of the state.
So is the ultimate purpose of this commission to determine which one of the systems that they will use as opposed to allowing each county to determine?
Sure. Or they may choose to select a pathway through an agency for that, or they may set up requirements that they need vendors to bid for.
Give me an
and do that.
example of an agency that would be a pass-through. And what agency is
Like
such as
ALEA, like ALEA, or if there's
Right.
something at the AG or something else that the sheriffs can work with to try. They're just trying to unify that system of notification, and this study group would just study that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate your questions.
Chair thanks the lady. The question for the body is adoption of the resolution. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Hey, Mr. Speaker, we have some other resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution number 80 by Senator Mel, varsity basketball team on winning the 2024 Alabama High School Athletic Association Class 2A Boys Basketball Championship. Senate Joint Resolution number 82 by Senator Allen, commending WBRC Fox 6 meteorologist and reporter Fred Hunter on his retirement.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? They are adopted. Chairman Lovern.
House Joint Resolution number 283 by Representative Simpson, directing the director of the Legislative Services Agency to hire an outside consultant to consider state ethics laws.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, hold on a second. Oh, man. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. House Joint Resolution 283. We started out with an ethics law earlier. So could you tell me what this is in terms of what would that process look like and what are we trying to do?
Sure. Mr. Speaker, if I could yield to Representative Simpson to explain that resolution.
Request granted.
Thank you, Ms. Speaker. Ms. Hall, what this resolution does, and I will give you a copy here.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
This will instruct the director of the Legislative Services Agency to hire someone or to retain the services of someone who is a national expert on ethics. What we need to do is kind of get the politicians out of the decisions that we're making and look for the...
Really? You
Really.
think we can do that?
That's what this resolution does.
It's going to be interesting to see this. Go ahead.
So we get the expert to come in to review our laws, to review what changes need to be, and it's a professional. It's somebody with national recognition that handles things, because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. If there are 49 other states that have ethics laws, let's look into see what they're doing. There's a national government ethics laws. Let's look into see what they're doing, and let's look at a broader aspect of what are ethics laws across this country when we make these decisions, and have an expert that has no political ties to come in and evaluate our laws.
Does that mean in addition that, so it says at the bottom that the recommendations would come to the director? Is that the director of the legislative services,
It's the director of legislative
the
services.
speaker of the House, president pro tem of the Senate, by the first day? By the time we come back in the next session,
They have a report to us to tell us what recommendations the national experts would say we should do to address
so
our ethics
how
laws.
will the rest of us receive that information? It does not give us any place. I don't see any place anywhere it says that the rest of us would have an opportunity. I believe that you would be willing to share the report.
1,000% to share the report, but it's also the creation of that report would be the foundation of, if we look at ethics laws next year to address them, that would be the foundation that we would look into. What, instead of saying this is a Republican bill or a Democrat bill, or this is an Attorney General bill or an Ethics Commission bill, let's get an expert report and look at it.
I'm clear on that. Being nosy, I'd like to make sure if you could even add my name, but I want to make sure I get a copy of that report.
I'm not on that list, but I'm assuming I will get a report. Once I get a report,
We all
I'll make
should-
sure you get a report.
Do you have any problem with us amending it to, or add to it that, and a copy be provided to each member?
I don't have an objection to that.
Yeah, I think we'll build on the website. But what I think what would be good too, once that's done, Ms. Off, we can get Othny to come down and go over it with us. I think
It would
that'd
be a good
great.
start, yes. Thank you,
ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was trying listen, this session I've been here 14 years, and this session has really wiped me out. And I was the rest of whatever's left of this disastrous session. But I did want to just get the clarity. I asked most of the questions that I have, and I guess my question, I didn't hear what they're going to hire an independent firm.
They're either, I'm not saying a firm, they will hire, and they will have an expert. I'm not saying hire
So
full-time.
they will engage the services of some entity or individual. Am I correct?
Correct.
And then that entity will be will I guess be engaged for the purposes of helping to further develop the ethics laws here, taking into consideration what we did this year,
What we did this year did not pass.
or what you were gonna present.
What they are going to do is evaluate the laws as they are today and make recommendations and suggestions on what we could do to make the laws better.
Okay. I think you did a great job with what you had to work with this year. I think I told you that once before. I did applaud the efforts, whether you're for the ethics laws here as they currently are so situated or opposed. I think just like with the laws that we pass every year, you need to make some degrees of modifications. I'm never one that is in favor of passing laws that will just totally criminalize me for things that the everyday average person does would certainly not be a crime. Whatever we do as we move forward, and I hope that Othny is listening, whoever we get, I want them to, as I've been trying to get done for 14 years, to help firm up a clear definition of what is considered to be a thing of value. I was glad that the pro-growth, whatever the alliance bill, that the modification that I pushed for as it relates to the ethics clause, of course, I was ultimately written out of the bill. I thought that was a victory for me. And again, I clarify why I pushed so hard on that, because, again, we're held to such a standard. And we can often sometimes be penalized sometimes for what could be the smallest thing in someone's eyes, but of course the biggest thing in someone else's eyes. So I'm glad that we are developing a system in which a third party will come, and hopefully they will be looking at standards that will be more so universal from other states or that have been employed for other states. So I do commend the speaker and you on that. I know the speaker's gonna definitely make sure that I'm on that commission, and I do know that. I believe it. I feel it. What you say, Mr. Speaker? Now, well, under not the previous speaker, but the one before, he did appoint me to the different boards and little commissions. I had a good relationship with him. And hopefully I will get to continue to have one with you, but you don't have to put me on anything. I'm fine. I just want to get whatever, hopefully we just won't have the type of session that we had this session. It's just absolutely, it's a scandalous shame. But anyway, I digress. Let me bring it back. That this session has been held hostage by people. I'll leave it at that because I don't want 1819 to quote me on what I was about to say. But you know, they know I don't care anyway. So yeah, I think this is a good thing. I just wanted to get, and when will Otney begin that search?
We got to pass this, and I'm hearing very quickly.
Very quickly. Okay, and will that be by an RFP, or he will just be given the permission to identify a company or a person that he feels best, or will he do it by a procurement process, maybe an RFQ or RFP, or how would that search?
I think we just established the ability for him to do it and leave it up to him to how he wants to do it.
Are you going to be a part of this process?
I'm not part of the hiring and looking for this process. We're
No, I mean, once we get into the nuts and bolts, or you'll just get the report. Why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because you're saying it's been a difficult session, and it has been a difficult session.
It's wacky. I mean, this is whack. I'm doing everything. It's only because I have developed a decent relationship with Speaker Ledbetter. But it's taken all that I have not to just come on out myself today. It is. I am pissed off.
I worked on.
I'm pissed off. I'm just saying. I can only speak for me. The speaker, you can gavel me, do whatever, but I'm serious. And I commend Speaker Ledbetter. I never thought I would ever say those words, but I commend him for the positions that he has taken and to also strengthen us as members here in this House. And I mean, I'm serious. I really do. This is foolery down here. Absolutely. It's an embarrassment. And I don't know what's going on up in that chamber. Up there, yeah. Holding up folks' bills, won't allow bills out the basket. So the press want to know what's going on. You're trying to punish members. Everybody has a right to be heard in this chamber. Things are going to be said that you may not like. But you'll hold up good legislation to punish folks, and I hope that the speaker will continue and get into a posture where he will stop moving all of their bills, because guess what? It takes both houses to pass a bill out of this state house. And we have senators that are literally trying to punish people, good people who have been in this chamber because of a difference of opinion and not move their legislation. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. And again, I continue to say we need to take back the power in this chamber, in this House. We are 105 members to 35. Now that math just does not add up to why they have to be considered so much more powerful over us. And when I came in here, that was not the case. And I don't care who gets the memo up there. But anyway, I just want to get that clarity on what was going on. I appreciate your efforts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me this opportunity to have my ventation moment at this microphone. But you don't have to call me to ask me what I said. You hear me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair, thanks, lady. Representative Simpson, you want to go into any other conversation about this?
Just to be clear for everyone to hear what the resolution says, and it's very short. This HJR directs the director. I tell you what, can you read this?
Clerk, see the amendment, the resolution, I'm sorry.
Whereas over 300,000 public officials and public employees and their families, from statewide elected officials to local public servants, such as teachers and firefighters, are subject to the ethics law of this state. And whereas the people of Alabama are best served by clearly articulated ethical standards and policies, well guarded from the risk of corruption, so that our state's public servants and the general public can better ensure that our government operates with confidence and integrity. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that the director of the Legislative Services Agency is directed to hire a person with national expertise and experience from outside of the state in the field of governmental ethics to study the state of Alabama's ethics laws and report his or her findings and recommendations to the director, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and the President pro tempore of the Senate by the first day of the 2025 regular session.
Okay, we've heard the explanation. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It is passed.
Thank you, members.
Thank the gentleman. Chairman Lovern.
Senate Joint Resolution number 81 by Senator Beasley, designating May as Mental Health Awareness Month in the state of Alabama.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 85 by Senator Melson, proclaiming June 2024 as Tick-Borne Disease and Illness Awareness Month.
Move for adoption.
All in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Senate Joint Resolution number 86 by Senator Wagner, designating August 8th, 2024 as Day of Clogging.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor? Oh, Miss Hall. All those in favor say aye. It is adopted.
Mr. Speaker, I have a resolution.
Special order.
House Resolution number 288 by the House Rules Committee, a special order calendar.
Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted. Clerk, call first bill.
On page 8 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 65 by Senator Kitchens, relating to the Department of Insurance.
Chairman Ellis.
Thank you for the recognition. Members, Senate Bill 65 is the exact version of HB 140 that we passed out earlier this session, 100 to nothing. It's the statute of limitations bill for the insurance department. With that, I will ask for the BIR.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Representative Blackshear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentleman yield?
Certainly.
Question for you. You said we passed this unanimously out of the House.
Yes, sir.
When did we do that?
Sometime in early March.
When did this pass out of committee and Senate?
March 21st, it passed out of committee and was in position for the...
So it's been positioned since March 21st for it to be added to the Senate calendar to pass the House version.
Yes,
You
correct.
know where we are with that status of that?
Actually, they had it on their calendar today and have just passed that. Now we're going to race our people against their people to see which one transmits.
Okay, I won't hold the time up then. I just want to clarify from a timing perspective.
just
on
a
that.
test
Thank you,
to
Mr.
see
Chairman.
whose staff
We're racing
is
to the
better.
finish. I appreciate it.
The race is
You don't
on.
have to give me 5 million other reasons. I'll
right.
go sit down now. Thank you.
Good deal. All right. Thank you, sir.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 97 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Chairman Ellis.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, I ask for and call for final passage.
That is questions, final passage of SB 65. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 98 ayes, 0 nays. SB 65 has been
Thank you, Mr.
adopted.
Speaker. Thank you, members.
Chair recognizes Gentleman Sellers for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. To my colleagues in this House, I don't want the report to read, or it will read, coming to a city near you, and that's violent crime. In Birmingham last weekend, in District 60, it was a mess. And it saddens my heart to see the violent crime that takes place within our cities. It's in Birmingham, it's in Montgomery, it's in Huntsville, it's in Mobile, it's coming to a city near you. This year, with the Speaker's help, there have been some efforts to put resources in Montgomery School, as well as $250,000, and also in some Birmingham schools to deal with the mentoring with our young folk. But this body as a whole, I think we should work collectively to utilize our voice, our intellect, and our actions to do all we can to curb, stop, prohibit, and handle the violent crime that takes place and plagues our communities. There are a whole lot of things that happen, but listen, it's coming to a city near you. If you think you're excluded because you're in rural Alabama, it's happening. Please, let us utilize every resource we have available to help our state and help our communities handle this violent crime.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Ms. Clerk, let's pull SB 219 out of the basket, please.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has concurred in and adopted the report of the Committee on Conference on the disagreement of the two houses on the House amendment to Senate Bill number 219 relating to agriculture. Said committee report being in words and figures as follows, to wit, we, the Committee on Conferees, appointed to reconcile the differences between the two houses concerning Senate Bill number 219, have met, considered the matter, and agreed to the attached conference committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Senator Shay Shelnut, Senator Roger Smitherman, Senator Jack Williams. Conferees on the part of the Senate, Representative Danny Crawford, Representative Sam Jones, Representative Andy Whitt. Conferees on the part of the House.
Chairman Crawford.
Mr. Speaker, the conference committee agreed to one change in the bill that dealt with the appointment, one of them by the governor as it left the House and went to the Senate for concurrence. It had one appointment by the minority, a leader that the governor had of each houses from a list of 4 people. The change is that it will be one member submitted, one nominee by the joint minority leaders of the houses for that term, and that's the only change, and we agree to that conference.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the conference committee report. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. With the gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
So basically, the change was from allowing the minority leader in the House and the Senate that would allow for 2 minority members. They reduced it to 1. That's the change that they agreed to in conference.
On the floor, we subbed the Senate bill.
Correct.
So when it went back, the conference was on that sub.
Right, but when we subbed it that would allow 2 positions, right?
There's still one position that would be from a list from the Ag Department, Dean of Ag from Alabama A&M and from Tuskegee University. So that's the other minority member. So there would be 2 out of the 7 would be minority members.
Okay, let's just go over the list one more time, just for clarity's sake.
I mean, it's start from the first one.
Yes, sir. We're forcing the minority leader in the House and in the Senate to agree upon their joint appointment for 1 person.
Yes.
Why do we agree on that when that's not what we've been pushing for and trying to practice this session? We've been looking at this different, and we've been pushing for the opportunity for both of them to have these appointments. But now, so are we going to get to the practice of saying that we want them to get together and agree on who they want?
Well, we was the Senate that did that. The House didn't do that.
But I guess my concern is someone had to agree on it in the conference committee. Like somebody conference committee and then it come out of the conference. Because even though they changed it, it's up to us to keep what we think is relevant in the conference committee because we can't make any more changes to it. Now at this point, it's up or down. So it's kind of like it puts some of us in a situation where are we for having more minority participation or are we for the Ag Center? And we shouldn't have to decide which one of these things we're for because I would think that we're for both because that's where we were when this came about. That's where we were in this body. We were for both. We were for having those appointees and for the center. But now it's like we have to make a decision on, do we set a precedent of allowing them to now combine the 2 to create 1 going forward? Because that's where we are. If we vote for this, it's almost like we're agreeing that we don't deserve or we don't want the 2 anymore. We're fine with 1. You see where I'm coming from?
Well, what we passed out of the House, the only change from that is what I just described to you.
But that's significant.
Rather than a list of 4 people, they would get together and make that list. There'll be 1 person that they'll get together and submit. That's the only change in what we passed the House.
Right, but what I'm talking about is this is like a type of diversity language that we're looking at to allow representation. We're looking at it on these boards. We're looking at it on different appointments. We're looking at it in a lot of situations, but it's forcing us, it's putting us between a rock and a hard place by coming back and saying that, you know, the leadership here and the leadership there, we already see we can't agree on nothing anyway. But you want the leadership here and the leadership there to get together and decide which one. So who's gonna make the decision? Who's gonna make the decision on making sure that minorities have representation? And if we pass this, we're setting a bad precedent going forward because this is something that we've been looking at for a lot of situations, not just for this one, but this is something that we've been looking at in session this year. But now it's like we're just gonna strike through it and say, well, it's not relevant. You know, let's just go to conference. Let's just give them 1. You know, and it's It just
But
shouldn't be the case.
There are two.
No.
two
See,
out of
you're
the
talking
7.
about what you're talking about is appointments from different universities, different establishments. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the political appointments that come through this body. We're talking about the political appointments where let's label them. Let's take away the universities, right? Let's label the political appointees. Take away the university appointees, because we can't just assume that they're going to appoint minorities. They can appoint whoever they want to, but let's take away those and look at the political appointees, which will come from the governor's office, lieutenant governor's office, all of these places. Let's go through those and let's label them.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
so the governor has 2 appointments.
Okay, the governor has two.
One of them would be that they would appoint on their own. It goes through the confirmation, so it's not a direct appointment. It goes through the confirmation. The other one is a person submitted by the minority leaders of both houses.
Leaders with an S.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then there's one from the Commissioner Ag that is from a list of people from the Alabama Cattlemen's Association, Farmers Federation, Southeastern Ag, something other. They'll have a list that his other one would be sent to the governor. And then one of the commissioner's other appointment is from a list provided by the deans of agriculture of Tuskegee and A&M. Then there's the Speaker of the House, then there's Lieutenant Governor and Jefferson County Commission.
Okay. I'm not going to take any more time on it because I'm not trying to filibuster this, but I do want to acknowledge that I just think it's wrong. I think the fact that this went into the conference committee and it diluted black representation on this board, in this committee, it just diluted us. It went in one way and it just came out and it diluted us. And you know, when you add that S on there, it didn't make it more, it made it less.
What S
for
are you
us.
talking about?
The S, when you said minority leaders, it made it less. And
But
that
what
wasn't
went
the
in-
intent that we had. That wasn't the intent that we had. That wasn't the intent that we've been discussing all sessions.
Who is we?
We as in people that's been discussing the minority language and participation when it comes to boards and commissions and different appointees in the state. Like that's been an ongoing conversation this session. So I'm not saying we as in like me and you, but I'm saying we as in people that have been discussing making sure that we have representation when it comes down to these political appointees, trying to make sure that we have representation, and now we combined it. So I'm not saying you specifically, but I'm saying that somebody don't want us to have an opportunity to be at the table because they didn't have to add the S and combine the two. And that's an issue because it forced you to be in a position where do you support having more equal representation around the state, or do you support the Ag Center? And it's just not fair to put us in that situation because I think we support both. But it came out as if we don't. And I guess I'm upset that I feel like nobody didn't catch that or say nothing about that. We just let that slide and let that go as if they'll just be okay. You know, they'll be fine. They can just get together and decide who they want to put on there. But I'm not going to hold any more time. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Representative Blackshear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
No.
Okay.
No,
Well, I
I'm
learned to
sorry.
proceed. That's
Yes,
pretty good.
yes.
Yeah. So, well, one thing I've learned now in my new role as Vice Chair of General Fund, you know, you try to find new ways to generate new revenue to the state. And we've done that this session multiple times. But now, since that bubble seems to have burst, we got to make sure that we become more frugal with how we spend our money. Because the days of us eating off the vine as much as we have are coming to an end. So when I look at bills like this, and I want to read, I pulled the physical note, and I'm going to read exactly from it. And it says, additionally, this bill exempts the corporation from payment of, number one, all state, county, and municipal sales tax and use taxes. Two, all state, county, and local ad valorem taxes. And three, any other taxes levied by a county, municipality, or other political subdivision of this state, including license and excise tax. This bill will reduce potential receipts to the state general fund and the education trust fund, county and municipal funds by an undetermined amount. So what are we projecting the total cost of this project to be?
Probably, I think I heard him talking in terms of 160 million, somewhere in that range.
All right, do we have, another thing that alarms me in here too, it also says, do we expect any state funds to be requested to go towards this project?
No.
Okay, well, in the bill, it also says this bill would allow the corporation to, number one, accept pledges of revenue and grants from government entities. What are they talking about, government entities, from grants and/or dollars?
If Jefferson County wanted to do something, they're welcome to do it. And they also have agreed to this in the city of Warrior as well.
So can you stand here and guarantee us, as me as a member of the general fund, that the corporation would not request money from the state and put us in a situation that we have to fund dollars for a project like this, which in return would take dollars away from things we're already funding in the state general fund and the education budget?
Oh, I won't be able to guarantee anything, but I would be disappointed if they did. But it's going to be a lot of private-public partnerships involved to achieve this. And the amount of revenues and things generated within that area would be tremendous.
All right, and the benefit would be those areas, and the benefit to the state are?
Well, there's county taxes. There's less, more and more money is raised from in that area when they're building motels and different things around, and restaurants and selling gas and everything else.
All right, because I'm just trying to figure out. I was always taught, if somebody told me every time, if I could win 99 times out of every 100 that I played the game, that's pretty good. You'd probably take that too, wouldn't it?
I don't gamble.
Well, this is well, I appreciate your support on the vote. I was actually more in playing in a baseball game. I think if they told you can win 99 out of every 100, you would win, right?
I might go borrow some money and try it.
Yep. What we're learning here is, though, with some entities want 101 out of 100 victories and not understanding the process with other things that it goes through there. I thank you for your time. I was just looking at it from a straight budget perspective. I think we're going to start seeing more and more requests come in because we built these budgets up. We're very blessed. And I've learned in my few years here, it's easier to deny people's requests for money when you're broke. The more money you have to give, the more people's hands and palms come up. And we're getting to the point here in this body where our hands are about to have to go downward because we're not going to have dollars left. And we're going to have some serious conversations of how we fund things that are already being funded in this house today to historical levels. We increase. The days of increases are about to stop. And unfortunately, we're going to start decreasing if we don't find other means of revenue to come in. So I thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your comments.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Van.
All I can say is, come on, Blackshear. Come on, Blackshear. Listen, give me the names of the folks that's on the conferees.
For the House, it was Representative Jones, Representative Witt, and myself. For the Senate, it was Senator Williams, Smitherman, and Shellnut.
Okay, see, herein lies the problem. See, I don't have anything else to lose this session, okay? And I too agree with Representative Brayson that we have been working for the last 2 years and really well under this administration on how we structure the minority participation piece with almost its fair and equal distribution as possible. Now, Alpha, don't call me, don't tweet me, don't email me. Look, it ain't a good day for me. Ain't got nothing to do. Listen, I don't want no calls, whatever. No threats. No. Don't tell your board members. No. Been there, done that with y'all. Listen, my concern is that we leave these conference meetings and we, just like this gentleman who, bill before you, pass your bill. We don't have to be so hard pressed because listen, that Senate up there and the leadership. I miss Dale Marsh. Because I feel like if you're strong, if you that bold to disrespect me, then what makes you think I'm gonna respect you? We have a bill that went up there, and guess what? Just so happened I was outside the door when two other conferees on this bill was talking about these very issues. The meeting before the meeting yesterday. As well as a few things that were said about the speaker. So I agree with Representative Bracey that we now have a bill that came back that would allow two people to make a decision on one person, but they didn't do that to the other folks. Everybody has an individual pick. And some have more than two. But when it gets to the minority piece, we're reduced down to two people, for which there was a minority on the committee, but the minority agreed with his folks in the Senate. So I do have a concern with that because we did start a good trend with that. Now y'all voted out, you're gonna do that anyway. And this center is in Jefferson County, and I strongly support Jefferson County. But sometimes the leadership in Jefferson County does not support us. Pebble Warren bills deserve an opportunity to be voted on and to come out the basket in the House, up in the Senate. Just like they want their bills to come out the basket and the Speaker so graciously sends their bills to committee. I just shared with the Speaker, when that education bill budget come back down here, we need to adjourn, sine die. The reason I say that is that same Senate at some point has left us down here working when they said F us and we are going to adjourn, sine die. Take back your power. The reason I can say this is I'm not afraid and I'm unapologetic. If not next year, then the next year. So I just, again, what was your rationale behind accepting their recommendation?
Accepting whose recommendation?
You're accepting the report. You joined in and you agreed to the conferee report. Yeah. Did you sign off on it? Were you on the conference? Were you a conferee?
Senator Smitherman agreed to it.
Oh, Smitherman agreed to it. Okay. That's why I asked you for the list.
And then Representative
Senator
Jones.
Smitherman will not even allow the Juneteenth bill to come out of the basket because he's angry with me regarding Birmingham Southern. And he's been holding a grudge all session because I simply said to him, I would never disrespect you in your district, and I don't want you to disrespect me when it comes to my district. Because you cannot step foot in his district or even breathe the district name without him going on to a whole 2 or 3, 4 levels up. But when I say that, I'm then sent to the principal's office, where Reed is not my principal. And I've lost a lot of bills in this house before. But I started thinking about it yesterday. I have to still be the woman that I am and feel good when I go to bed at night and know that I stood for a position. Birmingham Southern was not going to survive. And there should be a process of doing right. And doing right is not picking another legislator without even speaking with the legislator who represents the district to cover a bill in an area, and especially with a subject matter as great and grave as that subject matter was. See, I'm going to tell it now. The numbers did not work and would not have worked. And Young Boozer was right. If we had voted on that bill, it would have been just like we were standing in place trying to catch a knife falling from the sky. But as a black leader, you would hold up the Juneteenth bill as a black man. One of the only shots we may get to get it out of any house before Election Day. You would hold up the Bill 415 because you want to punish myself and others. Okay, I just wanted this opportunity, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad you finally gave it to me. It's absolutely ridiculous that we may, and I don't know where they're going to find the money, but they may now have, Representative Garrett possibly may have to come back now to take almost $50,000 from our Community Grant Service Fund because they wouldn't move a bill. Because of the ignorance that's going on up there. So y'all accept all these bills, all y'all want to, just to get a bill out. For me, it's not about Alpha, so if Alpha don't call me, don't tweet me, don't message me. This is not a good time and this ain't what you want. But I just think we need to stop this foolery and we need to garner a level of power. And if they want to treat me like a slave upstairs and beat me, that's fine. My back is made for it. My back is made for it. And I stand wholeheartedly with Representative Blackshear and anyone else who comes to this microphone with a problem with what's going on up there. And I'm very disturbed by the pro tem up there. I came into office when he came in, and he has really shocked me. But if this is what they want as far as us getting along as members to begin a process, and we have a member, a minority who would go into a room and then dilute the strength of a minority just for this legislation to pass, then I will say to Alpha, we all thought we were all better than that. So, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Chair, thanks, lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Jefferson, Representative Treadway. While he's making his way down, I'd like to recognize the Vestavia Elementary School from Cahaba Heights, guests of Representative Carnes, Faulkner, and Shaw. Thank you guys for being with us today.
First of all, I don't understand what's going on here, but let me tell you this. I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what leadership's doing. This is an economic boom for the state of Alabama. There's only, excuse me, I'm speaking. There's only 2 locations in the country that has a facility like this. It's going to create over 1,000 jobs initially. We make concessions in this state. Look where would we be without the auto industry? We make concessions for that. I just wanted to come down here because this is in my district. It's something that's been worked on for years. We were one of the finalists for many years to get this location. So for all of the Birmingham, Jefferson County area, and really the state of Alabama, this is huge. Thank you for all the hard work you put on this. I appreciate it, and I look forward to voting for this.
Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
In one breath, he said I was the queen of Jefferson County. Now he up here talking, he disrespected the queen. How you do that? I don't understand it. But my only concern, let me say this. They hold our bills hostages. And we pass the things that they send to us. The way that we show our strength in this body is that we unify as one. And we do the same thing to them, because it's more of us, that they've been doing to us. How many of our bills up there are they holding hostage right now? They're not even going to look at it. They're just going to let them sit, and when we sign it out, they're going to die. But I think that what ends up happening is sometimes we got to show the Senate that we're just as powerful and just as equal as they are. But when it gets to the point that you diminish what our wishes are in this body and you reduce the number of minorities, we would be remiss if we would not fight to maintain the number of minorities that we originally put in that bill and sent to them. I mean, it's time out for us to just say, okay, and then we continue to vote to allow the Senate to run over and disrespect us. Yeah, at some point in time, we have to say enough is enough. And I understand that maybe you have, I love the center that we're going to have, but at the same time, we have to sacrifice some things in order for us to do better. And I know that it would be a benefit, but one group can't, if you're going to get everything that you asked for, but you kill what other people are trying to do also, that's not right. And like I said, I appreciate the center, but we might have to sacrifice the center in order for them to, that's the way we ought to play the game. We should not play the game where they get everything that they want and we sacrifice. I think earlier a bill came, that was the House bill was passed in the Senate, that we had the Senate bill down here. Well, why not let the House bill be the one that transmit to the governor? Why do we have to rush and pass their bill? And I think that bill, when Mr. Blackshear got up, that bill has been in position since March. That doesn't make sense, y'all. And we will stand here and cow down to a body that is just as equal as we are. Just like it takes both bodies to pass their bills, we ought to demand that from them. And I appreciate Mr. Blackshear for coming up and fighting, because we are so passive in this house and they continue to run over us. We ought to hold up something and tell them we got something in return you can bring to us. We still got a little time before 11:59 tonight where we can hold this bill up and tell them, look here, we got some things up there you need to get off the table and out the basket for us. Once you do that and transmit them, then we can release some of the things that the Senate want. I know I'm just talking, and people don't understand that when you're in war, you got to have war strategy. You know, if it's a fun day for us, we do fun day strategy. But I believe we're in war when they purposely disrespect us. And in this house, they disrespect a whole group of people by diminishing the number of people that's represented on that board. And if we can't get that in unison, then we should not pass. We should carry this bill over and not concur until we get something from the Senate that we need. And we got a lot of people sitting around waiting for them to pass bills that are important for us and go ahead and transmit them. That's all they got to do. They can pass them, go ahead and transmit them to the governor, and we'll be a happy camper. But if we continue to allow them to do the things that they do, they will keep on stepping on us. I appreciate you listening to me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Montgomery. Nope. If I can have everybody's attention just for a minute. Okay, just so FYI, your information, so the Senate has now passed 18 local bills and 18 House bills of the 34 that they have on the calendar. So they're moving a number of House bills as we speak. Okay, the question now for the body is concurrence of the conference committee. Clerk will unlock the machine, the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 92 ayes, 7 nays. SB 219 is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and the body.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has amended as therein shown, and as amended has passed the following House bill and returned same herewith to the House of Representatives. House Bill number 73.
Chairman Pettis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the property tax cap. The Senate removed the study committee. It's still at 7 and 7 and 3 years sunset. With that, I concur.
Okay, you've heard the explanation. The sponsor wishes to concur. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 98 ayes, 0 nays. HB 73 has passed as concurred.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, members.
Thank you, gentlemen. Ms. Clerk, let's call the next bill on special order calendar.
On page 4 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 32 by Senator Barfoot relating to retirement benefits.
Representative Keel, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I passed this bill, or we passed this bill in the House a few weeks ago. It's exactly the same bill. It makes the process to get a lien on RSA retirement, a teacher's retirement, simpler. And so with that, I ask for the BR.
That is questions adoption of the BR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock machine. Record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. SB 32 is passed. Oh, that's a BR. I'm sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's all right. Move final passage.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
You said it to make it simpler. That's the part I heard. I didn't hear the explanation. Simpler how?
Sure.
What was the process before, and what is it going to be now?
Sure. So the process is already in place, and we leave the same process in place.
What is that?
It's there now. Well, it's if you, I don't know if you have the bill or not, but the restitution has to be $1,000 or greater. The individual has to be subject to be a beneficiary of either ERS or TRS. And then what we're removing is the case has been assigned to the district attorney's restitution to make the process run more smoothly. Evidently, there's a hang-up there with the district attorney's restitution recovery division.
And the hang-up was caused based on what?
It somehow allows, from what I have seen, it somehow allows if a person, they could owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, but as long as they make what I would say is a minimal payment, like a $50 payment every 90 days, then they keep looping in this district attorney's restitution recovery division.
When you say loop, you mean
it starts over. So you would think.
So they pay $50. That payment shows up, and they pay another $50. Now I remember we had it in
90 more days before we could go after them.
So 90 days. So now it's down to, I do remember having the discussion. So now it's down to what, 30 days?
I think so. It would take out that district attorney's recovery fund, and that's where that loop starts.
Does it open, would that loop occur more than, say, once a month, or, you know?
My understanding from the case that I'm familiar with is that it prolongs the collection for 90 days. So the lien's there. I mean,
I understand
they own
that.
the people.
I know. So the ultimate goal is to increase the amount of time or decrease the amount of time that it's taken for another payment to be made.
That's right. To get restitution.
And so I'm saying, is it the 30 every 30 days? That's what the DAs are looking for? Is that what?
I'm not sure. I think it's a monthly payment. Yeah, I think
I would.
monthly is what it should
and
be.
the reason I'm asking, if a person can't pay, and then the DA or someone decide, well, you know, instead of 30 days, every 2 weeks we're going to. That was all.
I think it's typically a monthly payment. That's what I'm familiar with.
That's all right. If somebody's listening, they let me know. I'd appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What's for the body now is final passage of SB 32. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 101 ayes, 0 nays. SB 32 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen. Would like to recognize special guest in the gallery, Russ Green of Huntsville and Jasper. They're the guests of Representative Lomax and Woods. Thank you for being with us today. The clerk call next bill.
On page 5 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 72 by Senator Orr, related to health.
Representative Chestnut, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. This bill is essentially the bill dealing with off-label medical treatment. And essentially, off-label is just any use that is not FDA-approved use. So if there are not any questions, I'd like to move for the BIR.
That is questions. Adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted. President Chestnut.
Yes, it's my understanding that Chairman Lee has an amendment that he would like to offer, and it's a friendly amendment.
Chairman Lee, you're recognized. Clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 72 by Representative Lee.
Chairman Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do have an amendment concerning controlled substance with this bill. And it says replace line 37 on page 2 with the following: general public. Section C, this section shall not apply to the prescribing, administration, or dispensing of any controlled substance as defined in section 20-2-2 Code of Alabama 1975.
President Chestnut, how do you view the amendment?
Friendly.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the amendment. The sponsor views it as a friendly amendment. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 103 ayes, 0 nays. The amendment has been adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lauderdale, Representative Harrison.
Representative Chestnut, why do we need this bill? Why was it brought?
I can't tell you why it was brought because I'm not the original sponsor, but I can tell you that it is useful and it's needed because I did speak with a friend of mine who I went to high school with, well, middle school and high school with, who's a doctor now who teaches at two schools of medicine, and he has informed me that this is a really good bill because what it's going to do is Now, if a doctor prescribes medication off-label, then there's not going to be, his license is not going to be jeopardized just for simply doing that. The only way he jeopardizes his license is if he exposes his patient to significant or substantial harm, or subjects the general public to substantial harm by the off-label prescription or use.
Yeah. Aren't they, isn't it common now or before this bill that doctors are allowed to use off-label treatments, off-label drugs for treatments?
There have been some, there have been some uses of that. Are you a medical doctor?
No, no.
Okay. But what this does is it won't allow, like, the Board of Medical Examiners and, of course, the Medical Licensure Commission to be able to threaten someone's license for doing it.
Has that ever been done?
I'm not aware of it.
Okay.
That wasn't part of my research on it. When I took the bill, I just kind of researched on off-label medications and things of that nature. When I do my research on bills to develop them or to carry them, I don't look for straw men to knock down. I just kind of look at what the substance of the bill is and what we're trying to do with the bill. So.
And I thank you for carrying this bill. I thank Senator Orr for carrying this bill. But I can tell you that doctors were threatened. There was a time when doctors were threatened for using off-label drugs.
Okay.
And that happened during the COVID pandemic.
Okay.
I personally know several doctors who were threatened. I know one very well. And what happened is when COVID hit, and then they had the protocol. Well, when you had turn blue, come back, and we'll put you on a ventilator. We'll give you morphine and Versed. That's when this happened, and I think that's the origin for the purpose of this bill. Because now, they said you could not prescribe hydroxychloroquine, zinc. You couldn't prescribe ivermectin. And they said, and this was and I'll just tell you what I've heard. The biggest lie during the COVID pandemic was that there are no treatments. I know the doctor that made a post, and she said, don't wait till your lip turn blue, get early treatment, and there are treatments. There were up to 17 treatments. There are a lot of off-label, the traditional stuff with respiratory distress. This is not the first time we've had diseases with respiratory distress. The bucinoid, there were 17 hydroxychloroquine, zinc, hyperbaric treatments. There were things that they were not allowed because it did not fit their standards of care.
Yeah, but it's hard to meet a standard of care if it's a disease that has never been dealt with before.
Right.
So you don't have any clinical.
But there were similar treatment, and they would not allow doctors to do this off-label treatment. They would not allow it.
Wow.
Okay. Other states, Tennessee went in and said they even made hydroxychloroquine over the counter because their doctors were being threatened. So there were a lot of things during COVID, and we'll never know the reason why, but were just absurd.
Now, what was the drug you just described? You said hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine.
That's the one that President Trump came out and said that.
That's the one that's used for malaria.
Yes.
Okay.
And they said it was they said it was unsafe. It's unsafe. Okay.
Yeah,
they eat it like candy over in Africa.
You go abroad, you take. Yeah. A lot of people take that to.
It's one of the most safest drugs, but they declared it. Okay. And so that was just a bizarre time when method. And so I'm for this bill. I wished we would have had it back during hydroxy, or when it was banned. And you would have doctors that would prescribe ivermectin. but the pharmacies would not even fill the prescriptions. And so it was a terrible time. It was a bizarre time. And it should never have happened. I had a patient, well, I didn't have a patient, but I know of a friend that died that was carried to the, he was carried to the ER. He fell out at home, carried to the ER. His wife stayed with him for 4 days, got him stabilized. She went home to take a shower after 4 days. She had medical power of attorney. She had power of attorney. And she left, she said, under no circumstances do you put him on a ventilator. As soon as she left, they gave him morphine and Versed, which depresses respiration. He was allergic to morphine, and it was all over his chart, but he didn't have the wristband on that identified that. I mean, it was just a mistake. Mistakes happen. He had allergic reaction, trachea seized up. They put him on a ventilator, ripped him up pretty bad, and he died. So, and I contacted lawyers all over the state for him. Found an expert in Birmingham. And he said they covered all the bases. Once it's declared emergency use, everybody is indemnified. They could have, once they pull you in those doors and shut the doors, theoretically, they could have blown his head off with no repercussions. And that's sad. There was no accountability. There's no, everything that went on that was associated with COVID, there'll never be anybody prosecuted for it. And, but this is a good bill. I'm for it. But there's a lot of things that we need to do to fix what went wrong in COVID that we need to address. Here it is 5 sessions after COVID began. And only this year we've addressed the Alabama Department of Public Health somewhat. There's other people that brought bills that would never see the light of day. We need to address it. And this is a beginning, and I'm for this bill. But a lot more needs to be done. Thank you, and I'm for it.
Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I appreciate your bill, but I don't want your bill to be a martyr to bad medical practices. And that's what has been said here. Some of the medications that they talked about for malaria, during the Vietnam conflict, I know I worked at the VA hospital, they stopped us from using it because of the side effects. Now, for people to buy it over the counter, you're putting yourself at risk. But for doctors said that they wouldn't prescribe it, they were making a good choice. But for people who have not practiced in the medical field to come and think all of a sudden that they could be doctors, it's a sad epitaph for a state that's got one of the premier medical schools in the world, that you would have people who want to practice medicine without a license because of how they feel and what they think. It's a lot of home remedies that people use that don't necessarily mean that if you got a pandemic going around the world, that it's okay for you to use them and you think your doctor ought to prescribe them. I think that is pure ignorance. I worked at the VA for over 30 years. We saw a lot of illnesses come, especially during the Vietnam and the Persian Gulf. We had men to come back with signs and symptoms of illnesses you never heard of before. And to think that somebody think that it's okay, something I got in my back room in the bottom cabinet is going to work, and I think I ought to use it and my doctor ought to prescribe it, is ignorance. We should not be about that in this country. I think your bill is intended for good.
Yes, it's.
But I know, I just have heartburn for people coming up spewing ignorance. I get sick and tired of it in this chamber. Your bill is meant for good, to help out. But them going back and talking about COVID had so many unknowns. We did the best we could.
Yeah.
Prior to COVID happening, before I retired from the hospital, in our labs, we had to do so much research in the VA lab. We knew that at some point in time, we would have some type of pandemic or epidemic. Why? Because doctors, in some cases, was overprescribing antibiotics. So you know at some point there's something gonna come up
That's a
that
problem
what
now.
we got on the market won't work. So when you got COVID, regardless of where it came from, most of your viruses are COVID members of the same family.
Yeah.
They just have a slightly different composition, and viruses live to replicate and to change. They change every other second. You can play the virus out today and the next day it's gonna be something different. But for us to think that it's right to challenge people who spend their lives doing research to make sure that we have the proper medicines, the proper antibiotics to cure illnesses and diseases when they come, I think that we as a body has to be more intelligent than that. We have to be, but I glanced at what your bill does, and your bill is good. But I don't want this body and members of this body to say, yeah, you know, we told the people during COVID that we wanted to
I did read about the hydroxychloroquine.
Right.
That if you took too much of it, that it would have really strong side effects.
It did.
And it was some mental.
They ended up having some mental deficiencies from it. But after doing Vietnam, we would receive so many. Sometimes when men were trying to go home in Birmingham and they would stop at the airport, that's when we realized they had bought the malaria in. And they would bring them to the VA hospital or the closest VA that they can treat them. But when we started seeing people hallucinate and having other types of mental side effects from it, we had to stop using it.
So what
you
was
end
used to
up
treat
coming
the
and
malaria?
what you end up doing is using what your best antiviral drug you got. It's just like with AIDS. At the VA, we were treating patients with AIDS from World War II. We didn't have a medication for them. When our one AIDS patient would come in that received blood during World War II, we knew when he hit the hospital, everybody was on guard. What we did was pheresis. We would cleanse his blood and then we would give it back and try to give him the best antibiotics that we had then, because it was still in a research phase. What's the best thing to do for AIDS? We even developed the Westergreen test during that time because all the other tests we had were not sufficient for diagnosing it. So when they say a doctor is practicing medicine, we're practicing. A lot of things we know, a lot of things we're researching, some things you think you know and you don't know. Because it can mutate, a virus can mutate, a bacteria can mutate. And what you used it one time to kill it off, you can't use it a second time.
That's why they tell you to finish up your antibiotics when you take
That's
them,
right.
Instead of just taking one or two and then.
Right, and then stop it. You got to kill it off. Viruses live to mutate. They live to mutate from one person to another person, even in the same person. So I just don't want a good bill to be marred on insufficient information. Yes, we all have home remedies, but those are your home remedies, and they might work well for you and your friend. But let us not put a patent on your home remedy. That's all I don't want. And I don't want them to attach your home remedies and say, oh, you're making a good step forward for bad medical practices. You're not making a good step forward for bad medical practice. What you're trying to do is help the situation out. And it's not meant so that people can scream and holler on what they think the treatment ought to be.
Yeah, so, and to your point, like my friend that I went to school with, and he actually teaches, like I said, 2 schools of medicine. His wife is a doctor too. And when he saw this bill, because anything medical related, I usually try to let him take a look at it and let me know what he thinks. He was very excited about it, but then he said, well, wait a minute now. He said, y'all not gonna give the practitioners and the non-physicians this power, will you? And so that was his only caveat, was that part, because he says that what ends up happening sometimes when non-physicians get the power, then that's how you get the pill mills that pop up.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to happen. We don't want that to happen. You're trying to do something that's going to help us out, but not to cause us harm. So we don't want to attach that type of philosophy to it. And that philosophy has no research background to support it. If that's your home remedy, use it. But don't patent it and try to sell it to other people. I appreciate you listening to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is final passage of SB 72. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. SB 72 has passed. As always, it's good to have former member Steve Flowers on the floor with us today. Steve, thank you for being with us today. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 3 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 84 by Senator Bell relating to filing fees.
Chairman Hill, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, in the law, we have what is known as a quadro. A quadro is a qualified domestic relations order, and it is utilized to move retirement funds from one spouse to the other spouse in a divorce situation. At this point in time, filing a quadro costs $248. That's the filing fee. What this bill does is it says that no filing fee will be collected for a motion for a qualified domestic relations order filed within 120 days of the date of the final order, that'd be the final divorce. For the purpose of this section, qualified domestic relations orders has the meaning in 26 U.S.C. 414. It is a mechanism to move parts of retirement systems from one spouse to the other without incurring tax liabilities. I would ask for the BIR. If you have any questions, Mr. Faulkner, who's an expert on quadros, will come speak to it.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Certainly, Ms. Hall.
What do you call this, quadro?
Yes, ma'am.
Quadro?
Who?
Q.
It is a short. It is a It is a short way of saying qualified domestic relations order. In the business,
Okay, all right.
we just call them a quadro.
So I couldn't hear you back there.
Oh, it's okay, Ms. Hall.
So you're saying you're allowing the transfer of retirement from one person to
Divorce.
the other?
This takes
That's
place in
separated.
divorces.
Okay.
Many people now do not have fixed plans. For example, a teacher just has a defined benefit plan.
Sure.
When she retires or he retires, they get paid so many dollars.
Right.
All right. Many people now, though, have retirement plans such as a 401k, an IRA, plans that they control. However, there are penalties for early withdrawal from monies of those plans.
Yes.
All right. So if you got a divorce situation, because this is the only time this is going to come into play, you got one spouse that, let's just say, has I don't care, $500,000 in a quadro plan, in a 401k. The other spouse has $300,000 in their quadro plan. The agreement or the order is to even up those two retirement benefits so that each would have $400,000 instead of 1.5 and 1.3. The way you do that without incurring a tax liability to the part of the person who is losing or removing part of that retirement benefit is the quadro. The quadro is a court order. Often they're pretty darn complicated because many companies have certain things that you just have to do to get your quadro done. So therefore, a motion to so enforce within 120 days of the final decree will not incur additional cost because it's really part of the divorce. And Mr. Brigna's done them. He's sitting back there nodding his head, yes, I may get him. I've done them. They're a mess.
Oh, you've done the
Oh, yeah,
quadro
they're
plan?
awful. I've signed off on orders on them, and I have drafted them. And they're difficult because companies have different requirements for moving retirement plans from one individual to the other spouse, so that's soon to be ex-spouse. But
so
this lets it be done without the necessity of incurring a tax liability.
For the individual, whichever one is giving up or having to remove money.
Giving up, it's a good way to put it. Yes,
Appreciate
ma'am.
it.
That's it in a nutshell.
Question for the body is adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 102 ayes, 0 nays. BR has been adopted. Chairman Hill.
And I would ask for passage.
That's questions. Final passage of SB 84. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 102 ayes, 0 nays. SB 84 has passed.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the gentleman. Clerk, call the next bill.
On page 19 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 327 by Senator Elliott relating to capital improvements.
Representative Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. This bill is related to capital improvement cooperative districts and would amend those cooperative districts to allow for improvements and for other land to be brought in at the consent of the owners.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee. Chairman Blackshear.
Thank you for the recognition, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
You must really, really, really need this bill.
This bill is very important to my district and the mayor's.
When it's time for us to discuss the legislation, we're supposed to do it in the people's house.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be my local radio show, 11:30 time now to have this interview and conversation with you, because that's where it should be done. Thank you, first off, for your leadership on the legislation you've done this session.
Thank you.
You deserve to be commended on that.
You and I can go to town about things that we didn't get passed this time.
But you stood in the eye of the naysayers, and you laid your head down every night knowing you did what was right.
100%.
With your full teammates and the captain of your ship in mind. Now, notice in here it talks about capital improvement cooperative. Cooperation, cooperative. They kind of go together. So walk me through this legislation, if you don't mind.
So what this does, specifically for Spanish Fort, and this is part of Spanish Fort, there was a shopping center that's there. There's some land next to that shopping center that they want to be able to be donated into that cooperative district to create some opportunities to do some other things with that land. In order to have that come in where they can control the land, where they can use the money for this cooperative district to be able to use for road improvements and things of that nature, we had to amend the current cooperative district that's already there. So this is a cooperative district that's already there, that's been there for a while. This is not something new. This isn't something that we're just creating. This is something we're just amending current legislation.
So it's something that's already existing.
Correct.
In the area today. Is it something you think the people should make a decision on in that area?
I think we can get this done in this house.
Which has been done in this house. I was just curious, you think there's some people that are against this, or you think your entire area that needs this is 100% behind this?
My understanding is my entire area that is 100% behind this. I have had multiple conversations with the mayor of Spanish Fort and how important this is to the city of Spanish Fort.
So you walk me through kind of some of the, how for Spanish Fort specifically work. Walk me through, I guess more specific to the county, Baldwin County itself, like that, some examples that maybe I could drive down if I wanted to potentially drive by OWA or something as I go down, and maybe want to stop off and go around, you know, eat, go to the amusement park, get on the little Ferris wheel and ride it or the roller coaster. How could this affect that or other things around it?
Well, so that's a great point that you bring up. OWA, next to OWA, there is a number of sports fields. You know, sports tourism is big down in our area.
You're not betting on that sports though, right?
We're not betting on those sports. But it's, you know, we bring kids down for youth tournaments, for high school tournaments, for things of that nature, for soccer fields, for all these things that are there. There is the potential to allow this cooperative district, and what they want to do is create a land like that. People want to donate that land into this cooperative district for sports tourism. So they're going to create more fields, they're going to create more parks and things of that nature to have more kid involvement to bring this through. And now this is this area is a shopping center. It's called the Eastern Shore Center.
Okay.
So it's right there off of you know, when you go down 59 before you turn right to go to my district. You don't go all the way down to the beach. So you take Highway 31.
So you get away from some of the traffic.
It's pretty bad
it's still
traffic.
bad, but you at least don't get all of it.
So what this would do would be able to allow people to donate lands into this cooperative district. You know, it's all on the consent of everybody. It has to be they have to consent to it. This isn't something where it's forced. This isn't something where they're taking property. People want to donate these lands to allow them to create a field so they can have these sports tourism opportunities, so more kids have the opportunity to play sports.
So donation, kind of, sort of voting to do it, not officially on a ballot, but they still have to make a decision as an individual to do something like this.
Correct.
What's changed since, I would say, 2021, when this was in place, to now in 2024?
I am not. I think now they have the opportunity for the people that own the land to be able to give that in. It has changed, and they want to be able to donate this land in. Whereas I don't think they've had that opportunity prior. Before.
So more people have potentially changed their decision to do this now than they had then.
Yes.
How soon after, if this passes, do you think you can potentially see some movement on this piece of legislation?
On the legislation, or are you talking about on the land?
Or like this passes.
On the land. If this
passes, because there's not a House version of this, right?
There's not a House
version. This is the only avenue for the people to get to make decisions back in your district if they want to donate land or not.
That's correct. This is the only avenue. This was a bill. This is Senator Figures' district. So this affects Senator Figures through her district. And so there was just an opportunity. They needed to get something filed, and so that's why it was filed the way it was filed. But this is Senator Figures' district. Spanish Fort is in her area. And so what we're trying to do is just give them the opportunity to come into this cooperative improvement district.
So if they do this, and I like the idea too, because I think the more kids we have these days, because, you know, I think we got to find more involvement in activities for our youth to do. I like the legislation we passed earlier with kind of the workforce, and we kind of get that little certificate now where you can go down the technical route. because there's some kids that can't afford scholarships. You know, it would have been great to have an opportunity, a pathway for kids to have scholarships through our, through this state as well too. They could go for 2-year, technical, or 4-year. Maybe we can keep working for that. But as it relates to things we talked about earlier, legislation that we brought to Baskin and concurred to earlier, from local taxes and things like that, would they still be responsible for paying those taxes with this if it's necessary?
They
Is
would
there something around that, or would that be waived as well?
No, the fees and the license, the rentals license rates and fees and other charges for use are the portion of this profit owned by the district and the users of the project. So it's only the land within that project would have the fees and licenses used for that project. So I don't. You may not be familiar with this shopping center, but
No,
they have
walk me
some
through
rules.
that, because I've heard, because it sounds like we got Senator Figures, Senator Elliott, you. There's such a small area, but it's so condensed. It's so much representation in that area. If I was in history class, and I was looking at a map, because sometimes history does repeat itself, especially in this house. Give me a little history lesson of that area from a geographic perspective.
Geographic perspective, that area was all in Senator Elliott's district until the redistricting of 2021 that we did.
Man, we keep going back to 2021. Things really have changed since then.
When the redistricting was done, that district became into Senator Figueres' district. Now, it stayed in my district. My district got smaller. I'm not in Mobile anymore. I'm just in Baldwin County. So I'm just in Daphne Spanish Fort. But because Baldwin County is growing so fast, that's why my district shrunk. It's also because Baldwin County is growing so fast that Senator Figueres had to come over and take a portion of Baldwin County to be able to make her numbers work in her district. So it is a very, very fast growing area. It is a very, very dense populated area that's grown because there's more people moving in than we can handle. And it's a great problem to have. I know a number of counties would love to have that problem. But when these people come in, when they want to move to the areas, they bring a lot of kids that don't have a lot to do. So it gives them a chance to have these kids go play football, go play soccer, go play these things on these fields that are going to help the quality of life of Spanish Fort and Baldwin County.
I think that's very critical, as you was too, because kids these days are going to find something to get into. If you don't create it for them, they're going to create it for themselves. Do you have any concerns, though, with going along with this? You're growing so fast. There's you got this whole piece of it, but there's a whole infrastructure side that goes along with it as well, too. How are y'all addressing that to make sure it coincides with this?
The fees, the increases, everything that they have as part of this district can be used on the infrastructure. There is some terrible roads within that shopping center that need to be repaired. This will allow them to use some of the funds from those fees to repair those roads from this cooperative district, not from everybody else. So it would help the people that actually are part of the cooperative district to pay for the cooperative district.
So I guess the good thing is you can use some money from this to repair the roads.
Yes.
Just in case you're not able to get Rebuild Alabama dollars for those roads. So these could use to subsidize in place of that.
Correct.
Well, look, I'll just say this, and I do want to take my final 40 seconds. I've never done this before, just because I appreciate your work. I just want to say that again. I cannot say that enough, and I hope this body recognizes. I hope all, Representative Ross is here with us today, so I guess I hope all 138 people that are in this House now, whether they agree or disagree with the work that you've done on this legislation and carrying this bill today. Personally, I would say you carrying this piece of legislation, SB 327, is equivalent, if not heavier, in my opinion, than you carrying the bill that you've carried earlier in this session that you've been working on over the last 12 months. So I commend you for what you went through, and to still carry this, you're at the top of my list, buddy, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Ringo, Representative McCampbell.
I get it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm trying to make sure I'm getting all these consortiums and all of these developments and in all these different districts right. I think the other day we had a district that we were trying to come up with. What kind of, you remember what kind of district that was we were dealing with the other day? It was up in North Alabama somewhere.
I'm with you. We have so many different districts, it's very tough to keep up.
And I think that district was one that was going to allow, I think it was up in Coleman, now that I recall. It was up in Coleman, which is a dry county, but we were going to allow people to make a 500-acre area into an area where now they could have alcohol and things of that nature. I think that's what that was. But you said this district, oh, my phone went out on me. But you said this district is basically a recreational district, or what is it?
The current district is a shopping center. Okay. So it's called the Eastern Shore Center. There's a number of, it's retail stores. It's an outdoor mall. Now there's also added some grocery stores, a bowling alley is there, a lot of restaurants. There's a lot of stuff through there. What they want to be able to do is have some more land be donated into the cooperative district that they can create and make football fields and soccer fields and fields for youth to be able to be used and to attract more people to that area through the sports tourism and everything that goes on. So you've got, kids, families that may come to the ballpark that night that can go to the baseball fields or football fields or soccer fields that would be right there where the restaurants are and right there where the entertainment is. So you kind of create this district where more families have the opportunity to have a better quality of life.
So what you're basically doing then is bringing forward a bill that will help the people in your area be able to grow and sustain their current way of life and even improve their way of life.
Yes, sir.
And I think it's, important as we, as a body, take into consideration each of those counties. I know oftentimes there are things that we may not agree with that go on in these, in each county. I may not want it in my county, and you may not want it in your county, but if it's something that is of value to another county, to another representative's county, I think we ought to, not try and kill all these counties off. You know what I mean?
I completely agree with you.
And I see you are fighting for your area, and it's not even a bill that you brought. You're just carrying it on behalf of another senator, right?
I am.
Of a senator.
That's correct. It's a senator who's not even his district.
And it's not even in his district.
It's in Senator Figure's district.
But he has a real concern about this area and the growth process and the opportunities for this area to grow. Am I correct?
I don't want to speculate.
I'm not going to ask you if I'm correct. I'm going to ask you, as a great attorney would ask you, in your opinion, is this the way you would perceive or see this thing that's going on?
Yes. In my opinion, this bill is very important to the district I represent. And I think this is very important for the city of Spanish Fort, which is one of the two cities that I represent. The mayor of Spanish Fort has offered to drive up here today. I was on the phone with him last night. He said, do I need to come up today to talk to anybody about it? And I was like, I think I can explain it. I think I got it. It's that important to him. It's that important to this city that this bill passed. I completely understand what I'm hearing and why I'm getting faced with what I'm getting faced. It's still worth it to me to get up here and take these hits because it's that important to my district.
And I guess other people that are standing, that would be willing to stand and take the hits that would come for their district, you'd advocate for them to be able to have that opportunity, whether the bill passes or not. Am I correct?
I would.
You'd be willing. you know, and I thought there's a May and a Shell in there somewhere.
I'm sure there is.
I think we should.
You know, you missed it last week. And while we're having this conversation, you missed it last week.
Okay.
David Faulkner dropped a bill into the Judiciary Committee, and we had a long debate over May Shall. And I thought of you the whole time.
And I hope you were on the side that said we shall, because, you know, you're usually on that May side, which means that you aren't sure that you want me to have the same opportunity. Which side were you on then?
I was on the shall side.
Well, you and I, maybe there's some hope for you yet. You know, now I don't know, but you know, I'm still. I think every representative, though, should or shall.
Shall.
You know, should and shall, you know, should is kind of a byproduct of shall.
Mm-hmm.
But every representative should be able to stand there and help their area, you know. And I really, I like the way you're doing this. I think it'll be something. Can I come down and maybe take notes on how it's being done down there?
You come down and I'll take you to some of the finest restaurants in that district. We'll check it out.
Well, now you come over to my area. See, I don't have nothing but the Red Barn and places like that. So
look, I'll eat it. Look at me. You don't get this body by not eating at good place. You tell me where to come, I'll go.
Okay, well, I hope I still have some of these places over and you know, we're trying to just keep some doors open over there, and it sounds like you're trying to open some more doors in your area. So keeping doors open versus opening doors it's a big difference. But I appreciate what you're doing, and I applaud you for standing here, listening to me regarding my issues, and then you know. So I appreciate it, but I think I'm going to support this because of your shell position last week. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. The question for the body now is the adoption of the BIR. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the vote. 100 ayes, 0 nays. The BR has been adopted.
Speaker, I ask for final passage.
That is questions final passage of SB 327. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 89 ayes, 0 nays. SB 327 is passed. Clerk, call next bill.
On page 13 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 33 by Senator Elliott relating to education.
Okay, Chairman Baker, I think we had carried this one over and now we're on final passage on this bill.
That is correct, Mr. Speaker. We did, though, have a agreed upon amendment with the education entities, and so I would like to offer that amendment at this time.
Okay. You carried clerk, see the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 33 by Representative Baker.
Chairman Baker, you carried to explain this amendment, please.
Certainly. This involved the time frame in regards to a contract employee that was going to be terminated with cause. And so the time frame has been amended twice in the bill. This is, it reads within 20 working days after the date of receipt of notice. And this occurs first on page 11, line 299, and then occurs again, page 12, line 326. Once again, this is the within 20 working days is the time frame that was agreed upon by the what I affectionately call the education family. They've all agreed to it.
Okay, you've heard the explanation of the floor sub, or not sub, but amendment. I got two lights on. Y'all want to speak on the amendment or the bill on the amendment? Chair recognizes the gentleman from Etowah, Representative Lipscomb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was just looking for some clarity as I'm trying to understand the procedural matter at hand. Have we already passed the BIR? Can we do an amendment after we do the BIR?
That's when we do it. It's after the BIR.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall. Okay, the question for the body is adoption of the floor amendment. Clerk, unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine, record the votes. 99 ayes, 0 nays. The floor amendment has been adopted. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would move for final passage as amended.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Blackshear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the gentleman yield?
Certainly.
I'm tired today. I commend some of my colleagues for coming here asking lots of questions. I mean, you got to really be in like mid-season form. You know, you're a former coach, working with a lot of assistant principals and stuff like this. So let's talk through this bill a little bit, because you must really want to pass this bill as well, too. So walk me through it.
It is. It's a very important bill. It originated actually out of one of my counties that I directly represent, Baldwin County, with the desire to provide for contract employees to assistant administrators to provide, hopefully, for improved performance in that particular line of work.
Do you think that some of this was related to when you get the tenure status, they potentially are seeing that some of these positions, maybe the individuals aren't being as effective potentially? I mean, I guess what was the intent?
Well, that possibly could be, I mean, part of, with the contract, that just allows that there can be incentives incorporated into the contract, so the terms of contract then, I mean, definitely could allow for enhanced performance, I guess would be that.
So, now I'm not as astute to the educational side as our chairman of the ETF and Chairman Collins and yourself and others. So I'm going to take a shot at this, and please correct us. But based upon the student population within that school, basically kind of already predetermines the number of assistant principals and so forth that you will have assigned to that school. Would this cost the education budget any more money and or add additional headcounts or anything to these schools?
No, this, actually on the fiscal note on this would be down to the local level. So it'd be based on the local level would be where it's really an undetermined amount that would be affected on that at the local level.
So is that where, though, that we supplement, when we budget some of the money, they can utilize locally for whatever
that is correct.
Whatever they want to.
You are
that,
correct. There are state appropriated dollars, then you're correct, yeah.
If they sign the contracts at the local level for these positions, they're bound to pay them. What happens if that funding is not there locally at that level? Would they potentially come back to us at the state level and ask for additional funds to fund these positions? Because I see what I think may happen in this is, correct me if I'm wrong, it may be, say there's a school, I see it as two parts, and correct me if I'm wrong. One could be, and I agree with you on hopefully improving performance.
Right.
Never been in a classroom, never been an educator. I think it's this calling from above, like a minister. So with you, Dr. Boyd, and others that are past educators in this, I commend you, because I would probably be behind bars in 72 hours, especially these days. But I noticed that a lot of times in education, the natural progression is from a classroom teacher. Then, of course, you'll continue through your educational tree if you know, so that's really the only way you can get additional money until we've done really good with the budgets the last few years. And then you go into administration. And for some reason, when the teachers leave the classrooms, it seems they forget how it was when they were in the classroom. And when they've been an administrator for 6 years, then 8 years, then 10 years, then 12 years, they become completely detached from the environment in the classroom. How could this help with that? Do you think that potentially in these contracts, the local levels would may want to consider that, you know, if you are an educator and you've been out of the classroom for more than 3 to 5 years, you should have to go back and do a quote unquote tour of duty back in the classroom so you can really see what's going on that may help you be a better administrator? No. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, those you offer, I mean, some possibilities that they could consider at each local level, as each local entity will be the ones that initiate and set the terms of the contracts. But yeah, you offer a very good, I mean, suggestion. I think it would be, that goes along with the professional development aspect of things. But not only that, I think just in the job performance. I mean, so as you may be referencing, going back into the classroom doesn't necessarily entail that they have to necessarily be right there teaching. But I do think your effective administrators, oftentimes, they will unannounced, not with an official visit for observation or such of a teacher, or such as for an evaluation, but just unannounced, just come in and sit in a desk, observe what's going on. They may be there 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just observing. Not only that, so they're getting a good, I guess, maybe maybe acquainted as maybe you were one is reattached then to what they might have done previously coming through the classroom avenue to become an administrator. Yeah. So I think you're more effective administrators do that.
Well, I'm used to, I've always said, again, I think the tenure thing is safe for some people, but I worked for 28 and a half years for an at-will employer, and I used to tell people at any time they can at-will me out the door. And I think that could potentially help because I think the teachers, we've lost a lot, in my opinion, of where we are and guidance a lot of them they're getting. Because a lot of your administrators and your principals now may have only been in the classroom 2 or 3 years, and you're telling a 20-year teacher and a veteran what to really do in that classroom. I mean, and, you know, when you look at it, I think we've lost our individuality in teachers, their God-given talents to be able to teach the classroom because we're teaching to a particular test or performance. Because to me, the grade systems we go through at each school, and the assistant principals and the principals and all the administrators are held accountable for their testing, right? I'm a firm believer the only way you're ever going to get true accountability in testing, you got to follow those kids all the way through. Because if you test me in 3rd grade, next year you test 3rd grade, I'm in 4th grade. So you're comparing my 3rd grade score to little Johnny that's now in 3rd grade, but Chris has moved on to grade 4. Kind of skewed numbers. Would there be some type of parameters in this legislation that would allow success on testing to be tied to these contracts? I mean, are you telling me, I know the contracts are at the local level, but would the contracts and the job descriptions and requirements to be attached on these contracts, would there be any involvement from the state level, or would it all be tied back to just the local levels?
These contracts would be initiated at the local level. But there would be, to your point, I think there could be very easily tied in. It's much like it's a part of what was passed last year, the School Principal Leadership and Mentoring Act, in which there are to be goals that is specific to that administrator, the principal or assistant principal, and these are goals for that school. So it may not necessarily be tied directly to, I mean, it could be, I mean, such as test scores, I mean, in general, but it could be other things that would be education goals specific to that particular school, but it does reflect back on that administrator. So yes, I think you're on the right track.
Well, I appreciate you working on this. I do support this legislation. I'm glad Representative Ross now is a member of our body with us, because I think the foundation of the education principle for each individual kid is giving them a good quality start and offering an environment that's conducive for learning, which you can't legislate parental involvement in a kid's educational life. But we can give them an opportunity. And I think we've done that with our first class pre-K programs we have. So you only build a strong building when you have a strong foundation, and we've done that.
Right.
Now, hopefully this will help. I hope local people realize that they do have strong pockets of leadership and administration, but there also are weak pockets in the administration once they get there. So hopefully this could be a tool, because our kids deserve the best mentors, and they deserve the best educators at the classroom level, and also the administrators up in the front office. That, to me, you were a coach, you got to set the tone for your team, and I think the administrators, that's their responsibility. So thank you for that.
I agree fully. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chairman.
For your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Question for the body now is final passage of SB 33. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the votes. 94 ayes, 0 nays. SB 33 is passed.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. Thank you.
Thank the gentleman. Mr. Clerk, let's call up HB 176, please.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has amended as therein shown, and as amended has passed the following House bill and returns same herewith to the House of Representatives. House Bill number 176.
Representative Lomax.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This doing with advanced air mobility, and the amendment was one we actually added in Senate committee, just stating that the Department of Transportation cannot utilize road and bridge funds to fund this study. So with that, I move to concur.
Okay, the gentleman's wishes to concur. Clerk on the lock machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock machine, record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. 176 has been concurred.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you,
gentlemen.
body.
Mr. Clerk, let's call out HB 21.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has amended as therein shown, and as amended has passed the following House bill and returns same herewith to the House of Representatives. House Bill number 21.
Chairman Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What we did here on HB 21 is in the Senate, they amended the ability of DNA marketing companies to be able to continue to marketing online and maybe upsell their products also on their websites. So it's just that and a couple of little language changes that made it go along with other states. I'd like to concur.
Okay, you've heard the gentleman's wishes is to concur. The chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman yield.
Yes, ma'am.
Give me this DNA marking is what you're talking about?
I'm talking about like Ancestry.com and,
Yeah,
and those
okay.
others.
And you said there was some kind of language change, but you didn't specify what that was.
Well, what we found on that was the way the bill was written, it could possibly restrict their ability on their websites to upsell a product. Say you're going in and you're signing up for the $19 service that would tell you where your ancestors were from, let's say, and the way the original bill was written, it could possibly restrict them to have the ability to say, hey, for $5 more, we can do this for you or that sort of thing.
So we are trying to prevent that?
No, we're trying to allow them to do that.
To offer you an incentive to spend more money.
If you'd like to, but the whole purpose of this bill is just to inform you if they sell your DNA to a third party. That's the whole purpose of the bill is legislation, the Privacy Act, to let you know if your DNA is being sold to a third party, that they have to notify you of that. So that one of the unintended consequences, though, could have been that it would prevent those companies from being able to market their products. And being a national company, that's a difficulty when you get state to state. So.
We have evidence that that has happened? And say Ancestry.com. We have evidence that that has happened, that information
that they're
is
selling
that they're selling?
It happens all the time.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, I mean, when it happens, is it happening because we've generally have given permission? I'm learning more and more about technology and that realize like with the cookies, if we say, okay to use those cookies, what we're doing is giving them a chance to track whatever we're doing as opposed to not. So I was trying to see, how do we get to the point where and let me tell you why I'm at this point. Sure. I tried doing a bill that would prevent state agencies from selling information.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Did you know that they came out of the woodworks? State agencies came out of the woodworks because they gave me all kinds of reasons. In addition, I mean, it's amazing. So I'm trying to figure out how do we get to do this that makes that, because I need you to help me to make sure that that is a process, not only just for this company, because I'm saying if that is true if we're doing this for this company, certainly our agencies should not have the ability to sell our information.
No, I 100% agree with you. I'll be happy to work with you on that too.
Oh,
because
most definitely.
Because it's a growing trend. I mean, that is our private information is more valuable than all the gold in the world. I mean, there's data mining is a growing industry, and things like DNA have so many uses that aren't intended of what we really want them to do. I mean, if you go on and you think that you're getting screened to see whether you have some type of disease that may be hereditary, or you're going to just see if you're Irish or not, you shouldn't expect that your DNA could possibly be sold to a third party, and you should be able to approve that. And so that's important to me.
So
I'll be happy to work with you on
no,
that.
I'm very serious about this
Yes, ma'am.
because it never dawned on me to even think about, but as I said, I'm learning more about the computer and all of that. But we certainly should be very much aware that the information that we provide now, I had no idea folks would be buying the DNA. And I do know of an incident where someone had their DNA and, the ancestry done. And within a month after that time, because of the lineage that was shown there was a connection with the case, a criminal case, and that person was contacted about that criminal case. Yet they were not a part of it, didn't know anything about it. But so I can see that.
Right.
But I certainly appreciate the fact, and I don't know how I missed this. This must have been the week that I was out. But thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body now is concurrence of HB 21. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays. HB 21 has been concurred.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, members.
Mr. Clerk, let's call up HB 201.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, the Senate has amended and is therein shown and as amended as passed the House of Representatives. House Bill number 201.
Representative Klaus, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is House Bill 201 we passed out of here a couple of months ago. It was a very simple bill giving state employees and education employees, if we gave them a COLA, that it would just set up a framework where every year it would have to be identified in the budget and the money would have to be appropriated in the budget to fund that. So it wouldn't be just stuck on the RSA every year to come up with those funds in case the budgets went sideways. The Senate's been arguing on this all morning, so it's sort of what's slowed things down up there. And they've put a sub on this where it's tied to a rainy day fund we got, particularly in the education budget. And I think I'm okay with it, but at the same time, they want to go to conference and continue to talk about it. And I need to talk to Chairman Reynolds. He's out of pocket right now, so I need to get on the phone with him and talk to Chairman Garrett also. And so with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm gonna move to non-concur and go to conference.
Yeah, you hear the gentleman's wishes to non-concur. Chair recognizes the lady from Madison, Representative Hall.
Thank you. So what are we looking at? What are the concerns? What do we have?
Well, the concerns is it's been sort of rushed today.
Now I'm on your side. Now I'm not here to be anti what you're calling for. I'm just trying to understand exactly
Right.
what those things are.
And that's what I want to do too. And they finally agreed to go ahead and pass this up there, but they want to go to conference so they can get everybody together and make sure we got all the I's dotted and T's crossed here. But years ago we passed a mechanism for COLAs for education employees.
Right.
It had to be $100 million before you could do. Of course, we never put any money into it. We were hoping that the gaming bill would start providing some revenues in there to be able to do stuff like that for education and state employees. So Obviously, that's not going to provide any revenue here, but it's still, we still have that mechanism in place to get to that $100 million threshold, and they've added that sub on to my bill, which said originally, and still says, that you just have to identify it in the budgets every year.
You have to identify
the funds in the budget for if you pass a COLA for state employees or in education retirees and state employee retirees, that every year it had to be identified in the budgets that those funds are still available for that year. If not, then that COLA would be suspended for that particular year until you made sure the funds are there. So it wouldn't be just a burden on retirement systems.
So we don't do the line item well, we haven't had a COLA either.
No, this bill would set up a line item to do that, or set up where you put language in the budget to make sure those funds are identified.
And presently, there's no money or any funds available.
Not this year.
The line item, and we're thinking that we may have some next year?
Well, that's the hope.
Where are we getting it from?
I don't know.
We can start, no, I won't say that.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Question for the body is to none concur on HB 201. So if you wish to none concur and for the sponsor's wishes, your vote will be aye. Clerk will unlock the machine. The members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine and record the vote. 102 ayes, 0 nays, and HB 201 has been none concurred.
Madam Speaker, members.
The members on that committee will be Chairman Klaus, Representative Blackshear, and Representative Lawrence. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ask to suspend the rules for 2 time-sensitive resolutions. First, suspend the rules first. Move to suspend the rules.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Hearing no objection, the rules are suspended. You're 1 out of 105 today, Ms. Hall. I'm sorry. Okay.
It hurt my feelings. It wasn't anonymous, Mr. Speaker. Unanimous there. Unanimous. First one is by Senator Wagner commending James Michael Murphy on his induction into the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame.
Clerk, see the resolution.
And enjoyed resolution number 89, commending James Michael Murphy on his induction into the Alabama Sports Officials Hall of Fame, class of 2024.
Okay, you've heard the resolution. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is. That's passed. Chairman Lovern.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The second resolution by Senator Allen is celebrating the life of Cecil Ingram. Move for adoption.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? It is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just to update on the total House bills that have passed both houses is 154. The total Senate bills that have passed both houses is 139. And the total acts, both bills and joint resolutions signed by the governor, is 289.
Thanks for that report. Ms. Hall, would you like a moment of personal privilege? Okay. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember our Sine Die party tonight at 5:30 at Montgomery Whitewater. There will be a legislative prayer breakfast in the morning at 7 a.m. at the RSA Plaza as usual. And with a heavy heart, I say I move the House stand in adjournment.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Hey, members, before you leave, I hope everybody make it tonight to the Sine Die party, and certainly your spouses are welcome. And let's just enjoy each other and have a good time. Thank y'all. 5:30.